Hi everyone, Mark Merrill with Firm. We're going to be running a montage of several audio clips and also read you a few things about reasons to stop hate crimes and violence. Here's the first one. It comes from the Epoch Times in regard to the Supreme Court allowing the Trump administration to ban troops who identify as transgender. It's just a little part of it, but it means a lot, folks. And we'll get to a few other topics on this particular episode of Firm Journal.
Supreme Court lets military ban troops who identify as transgender. The Supreme Court on May 6th granted a stay that allows the U.S. military to ban troops who identify as transgender as litigation challenging the ban plays out. A majority of justices agreed to enter a stay of a preliminary injunction that was entered by a U.S. district judge in March against the policy, pending the disposition of an appeal. Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissented. The court said, President Donald Trump, in a January executive order, said that people who express a gender identity that diverges from their sex cannot satisfy the rigorous standards necessary for military service, and directed military officials to update rules to that effect.
Cut 2. Maine Senator Craig Hickman presents a bill to lower the voting age in Maine to 16-year-olds and above. What?
This bill would propose an amendment to the Maine Constitution to lower the voting age from 18 to 16 for statewide elections. 16-year-olds already take on adult responsibilities. They can drive, work, and most already pay taxes via their part-time or summer jobs. Research shows that voting at 16 encourages stronger lifelong voting habits, greater political trust, and more open-minded political engagement. And off script, I'll say that many of the high schools and middle schools in our state participate in mock elections before the elections, and they almost always get it right. So they are very, very predictive of what will come at the ballot box, which means why shouldn't they just go ahead on and participate?
Cut 3. A Florida Democrat, state senator, quitting the Democratic Party.
The former top Democrat in the Florida State Senate quitting the party and giving up his leadership job. Jason Pizzo saying, quote, the Democratic Party in Florida is dead.
The partisanship holds us back rather than propels us forward. Less gets done, not more. Our constituents are craving practical leaders, not political hacks.
Florida State Senator Jason Pizzo joins us now live. Senator, great to have you on the show. I also wanted to point out that you have said that the Democratic Party screams, quoting here, anarchy, then demands amnesty. Are you talking, sir, in general, or are you talking about specific examples?
Specific examples, Trace. Thanks for having me back on. I was here 3 weeks ago, and you're a bad influence because I left my party since our last this is my last appearance on your show. We'll stay tuned for the next one. No, it's specific. I'm a former homicide prosecutor in Miami-Dade County. And there's always bending over backwards to be critical of law enforcement, not to back the blue, to find some excuse or some, talking your way out of it as it relates to the amnesty for people who commit crimes. So we've had bills recently, people squatting in people's homes or hotels, transient occupancy in hotels, and the Democrats just, keep showing up saying, have mercy, but to some extent, enough is enough, and that's where we are.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much gives you a quick nutshell as to what we're dealing with here in our country. And we thought we'd put a montage or a series of events that have been going on for the past 2.5 weeks. Even more recent, folks, as we're going to bring up another instance. Maybe you can see it here. Looks like a burnt-out warehouse. Well, it's burnt out all right. What it really is, folks, it's from a Maine Wire story, courtesy of a post by a veteran Maine firefighter, Norman Lawrence, who back on May 4th put this post in about a possible alleged arson by CCP gangs here in the state of Maine, ladies and gentlemen. Tragically, Steve Robinson writes for the Maine Wire back on May 3rd, one of 270 plus cannabis grows Homeland Security has linked to Chinese organized crime suffered a massive fire. On May 2nd, this triad drug den was raided in 2023, but Maine's cannabis regulators decided to issue them a bunch of new licenses anyway. Is that right? Jeez, didn't turn out too good, did it? The former business manager was Johnny Wu, that's W-U, an infamous figure in Maine's Chinese drug trafficking epidemic. Having seen firsthand the sophistication of this grow, according to Steve Robinson, who wrote the story, and also co-authored by Norman Lawrence, a veteran Maine firefighter. As he said, having seen firsthand of this grow, I really doubt this was an electrical fire or an overloaded wire. Travis Gray of Travis Gray Trucking, the owner of the facility, had a license to grow here before he started renting to the current occupants. Never any issues, apart from the Asian transnational organized crime, he said. I'm guessing this was arson. The question is whether it was triad on triad violence, a Central American cartel taking out some competition, or vigilantism by Maine growers who were sick of the Mills administration doing nothing while Janet's brother profits from illicit grows. With so many honest, law-abiding cannabis business owners being driven to bankruptcy and ruined by the total lack of law enforcement against the Chinese growers, vigilantism was always going to be a risk. Vigilantism is part of the reason I haven't published, by either Mr. Robinson or Mr. Lawrence, he says, I haven't published the Department of Homeland Security list of 270 plus sites in Maine, or my own personal list, which has much more detail and well over 300 sites. The last thing I'd want to do is help a bunch of Maine boys take the law into their own hands to rid our state of the CCP-backed Chinese gangsters who are poisoning our homes, our weed, and using slave labor to get rich. Quite a few people responded to that one, ladies and gentlemen, and I tell you what, it's not pretty. So from that one, folks, we go on a little bit further here and have some additional information or another topic to go on to the fact that the Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization, is holding a rally, if it hasn't already taken place, to support the passage of LD 868 and LD 1337. I always get those wrong, sorry. TP-USA Kennebec-County chapter, covering Augusta, Waterville, and a few other towns, held a rally, or is going to hold a rally, to support LD 868 and LD 1337 to stop transgender men competing in women's sports violating Title IX. You know, this whole thing is just blown out of proportion by Janet Mills. She doesn't want to obey the law, so she keeps wanting to throw lawsuits at Donald Trump. It's not going to happen, folks. It really isn't going to happen. What is Turning Point USA in Kennebec County? A real great bunch of sophisticated and intelligent young men and women. We'll show them to you here briefly. And is also supported by, you see, our friend here from the Maine legislature, GOP Minority Leader Katrina Smith. What they are is one chapter president, Christina Parker. And they go by a Gmail of Kennebec County Activism Hub at Gmail. We'll put that one up for you, folks. They had rallies back in November, and they're continuing on into 2025. They said, as the next generation of the United States, we dedicate ourselves to be educated and to educate other students. Regarding our duties as American citizens, we will promote free speech, critical thinking, and liberty, and will serve others in our community and fight for the unalienable rights our country stands on. Excellence, she says, is our priority, and God will be glorified. It's all about God in the first place, ladies and gentlemen. A couple of final notes here from Firm, ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to our program running down. Reasons for stopping radical leftist hate crimes and violence. What we have here, folks, is a copy of the Declaration of Independence, where we're constantly promoting the second paragraph. As many of you know, it is the right of the people and the duty of the people to put off and stop usurpations and despotism. If a government does not hold up to the rights and freedoms founded by our forefathers. We finish our program with this note, folks. Our organization, Fairness in Reporting Media, recently, over the past 2 to 3 weeks, has gotten more on our promotional car, vehicle, and our focus and public awareness by promoting the U.S. Bill of Rights on the hood of our car, along with the words "We the People" on both sides of our vehicle throughout central, southern, and eastern Maine. And we'll continue to defend the First Amendment to take back our freedoms, rights, and pursuit of happiness given to us by Almighty God, as previously mentioned, and no one else, especially mortal humans, can take that away from anybody. In the meantime, stay tuned to us, folks, here at Firm for continuous podcasts about truth, facts, reality, and common sense, as you've seen. And also right here, keep us in mind for our podcasts. You can access them anytime, ladies and gentlemen, at rumble.com/fairnessmedia1, rumble.com/fairnessmedia1, Twitter, YouTube, and emails 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com, fairnessinreportingmedia@gmail.com. Stay with us, folks. Pray for our government, a turnaround of our state government and our leadership. Peace to all.